cake, we're going to do some homemade gnocchi, which is just delightful. What we need is some mashed potato. I've made some mashed potato earlier, so I've just reheated. Sorry, I've cooked some potato. I haven't actually mashed it yet. So what we're going to do to mash the potato is we have a special device. It's like a grinder that you can mash the things in. We also have this very handy little stand that I can sit this into so that I don't have to hold it up in the air with one hand. It just frees me up a little bit. So, I'm going to get a plate to put underneath that so that it will catch my mashed potato. Alright, let's start. We're going to tip, it's just cooked chunks of potato that I'm going to tip into this machine, and we're just going to grind away. You can see it's steaming. So this is going to take a few minutes. Some of it's trying to escape. But we're going to get there. It's looking good. Sometimes push it down, it doesn't want to go underneath those blades. Alright, that's the first lot. Made 2 containers. You're going to need equal amounts of potato and flour, and then depending on how much you're actually doing, you need an egg or 2. So for this amount we're going to put about 2 eggs. But you just want it to a consistency that you can then knead it. Now you can probably hear the kettle in the background. I'm just boiling some water because we're going to cook the gnocchi like normal pasta in a pot of boiling water. We're going to throw them in. You can tell when they're cooked because they're going to float to the surface. And then you can serve them with, you know, a curry or a casserole, or something saucy is good because it's like a nice little soft pillow of, you know, carbohydrate in amongst your saucy goodness. And so you can, you know, you don't have to have a knife, don't have to have anything. It's all bite size. It's all just nice, warm, wintry, heartwarming meal. So we're nearly done here. I'm just going to add in the bits that have fallen off the edge. Clean it all up a little bit. Get all that last stuff down in there. That's great. Now I've made gnocchi a number of times, and I've YouTubed it, and I had never quite gotten the bit with the fork of how you actually shape the gnocchi in the end, so I'm very excited to show you that today, but that'll be a little bit down the track. Alright, that is that done. So if we now lift the ice cream container that I cut a hole into, you can see there is a huge amount of mashed potato there. So we're just going to use plain flour. So this is just plain flour. Tip some on the bench where you're going to need. Remember I said about the same quantity of potato and flour. And for this amount I'm thinking we might need 2 eggs. So I'm just going to tip all of the potato out. Make a little well in the centre for these eggs because they will try to run away. And you really don't need to be making more mess than you need to be making, as Josh would say. We can only do what we can do. Right. So, I might actually get the spoon that I had earlier and just so that it really, those eggs don't run away, give them a little bit of a stir on the spot there. Before I start kneading it all into the flour. Now you'll need to knead this for a few minutes. You want it all to be nice and smooth so that those pillows are just like little fluffy clouds. It's good to put some flour on your hands because the potato really is quite sticky and your hands will end up really caked over. So you can still sort of see the egg in there, the yellow bits. You can see potato, but it's all coming together. If you need to adjust with a little bit more flour, you can do that at any stage. Thinking I'll need a bit more flour now. It's starting to get a bit more sticky, especially on the hands. And you can also, you know, clean up as you're going along. Just going to get a knife because some of it's stuck on the bench, and a knife really is the easiest way to get that off the bench. Now we have this nice ball of gnocchi dough. And getting a little bit sticky again. So you also need lots of flour for when we roll it out, and then also once they're shaped and formed they will stick to the bench if you don't have a floured bench, so you really will you know, your bench is going to be covered in flour. Be prepared for that, and you just have to tidy up after, and it's not a problem. Alright, one more lot of flour. Alright. Then with the knife you can cut it into portions. Keep all of those portions again on a floured surface because it really is quite sticky and it won't take long to just become a mess. So then when you've got a little portion, you can just start rolling it out with your hands. I don't know why I got that rolling pin, because we don't need a rolling pin. That's for the naan bread that I'll do in another episode. But you're just rolling it out with your hands to a long thin snake. Now these are going to, like most pasta, it's going to become a lot larger in the water. So, you know, you might think you're making these awfully small to begin with, but really, you know, you want it to be bite-sized. You want, when you put a spoonful of it in your mouth, you don't want to have a full spoon of gnocchi. You want some of the sauce or casserole, whatever you're going with it, to be able to fit there as well. So that's one lot that we've just made into all the little pillows. Just roll out one more while I'm here, and then I will show you the fabulous technique of shaping them into those cute little ribbed curly whatevers They're like a shell, you know those shells you get? That's what gnocchi reminds me of. So, cut these little pillows into shape. Just roughly portion them. These ones might be a bit big actually over here. Alright, you're going to need flour on your fork as well, because, as I've said before, this gets quite sticky. So it's that easy. Every now and then you can re-dip that in your fork. And that's how it is. Just let it run off your fork, push your thumb into it. Don't put your back into it, put your thumb into it. And there you go, delightful little parcels. The little gap there that your thumb has made, you know, the little hole in there, that's going to grab some of your sauces, hold all that flavour. It's just going to be delightful later on this evening. So, gnocchi, that easy. I don't know how long that took. Maybe 5 minutes. So in a moment I'm going to get that pot of boiling water on the stove, because while I'm rolling and shaping more of these, you're going to have to cook them in batches. And like I said earlier, you can tell when they're cooked. When you put them in, they're going to sink to the bottom. When they're cooked, they're going to float up to the top. And then you scoop them all out. Your water after a few batches does get quite a bit floury because these are sitting here lying in the flour. But there's not much we can do about that. We can only do what we can do, as another famous chef would say. So I hope you're able to catch that image on the camera there, where you're pushing your thumb into it so that it's making, you know, the little ridges, grabbing it of the fork, and see how my thumb at the end is what's actually made that little indentation. So I don't know how they make it in the factories, what kind of a machine they use, but back in the old days, back in Italy with Nonna, they would have been making them. And you know, this is how to this very day Nonna would be teaching her grandchildren, granddaughters probably, how to make this delightful little recipe. So that's pretty much, and that, you know, that's 1/5 or even a quarter of the dough that I made in that short amount of time has made all of these wonderful little parcels. So like I said, I'm going to reboil the kettle. I'm going to turn on the gas cooker. Get a large pot because you want them to have room to be able to float around and float to the surface. I'm going to get that water on. Now I sometimes love gnocchi just with a drizzle of olive oil and some cheese on it, just Parmesan cheese or even tasty cheese. You know, that's quite a plain, simple recipe, but you know, it goes well with a lot of typical pasta sauce things. Like I do a great tomato based sauce with chorizo and bacon and onion and you know, just anything that's saucy so that it can pick up the flavours. You know, and then off you go. Goulash is great with it. Tonight we're actually having it with stroganoff because my husband likes stroganoff. So you can just see that technique. It took me quite a while to learn how to do that because I always thought people were resting the fork on the bench. But you run out of room for your thumb to be able to run off there and for it to just curl properly. So I was really thrilled to find this out, and I'm hoping that if you've had the same problem, if you've seen, you know, other videos, or you've read a recipe and it said, you know, run it down your fork with your thumb, and you've tried it and you just haven't gotten anywhere like I did, I hope that this really, you know, you can pick this up pretty quickly and you'll have great gnocchi every time. So that is my hope for you tonight. So I've got my water on. Once it's boiling, I'm going to put a bit of salt in it, because these didn't have any salt in them when I was cooking the potatoes. The water's boiling, so I'll get the salt. I have put another kettle load of water on in case I feel the need to top it up if it's getting too floury, but we should be alright. So you just grab these, try and be gentle with them because they are quite soft, so they will squish. But you just plonk them in gently, and then they will make their way to the top as they cook. Now you want to put about as many in as will cover the bottom of the pan. You certainly don't want to do 2 layers, because then the heavier ones at the top are going to stick to the ones on the bottom and not let them rise when they're cooked. So however wide your pan is, the base of the pot, that's what you're aiming for. And then they'll only take a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes cooking. And you know, that's while you're preparing your next batch that will go in after this. When you're taking them out, if you just, because they're so hot, if you just plonk them in a dish all together, they are going to stick together and it's just going to be quite a mess. So grab a bit of olive oil, toss them in there amongst the olive oil, and that will just coat them a little bit and keep them separated. And then you can mix them with whatever pasta sauce you're having, and they won't be just a big clump of mess. So, you know, you can see that each gnocchi is not taking long at all to roll. So looking forward to eating some of these tonight. Yeah, the dog agrees. See, the fork's getting a bit sticky. You have to keep an eye on it. Also, your thumb can get quite sticky and then it just won't want to leave your thumb. So just keep an eye on all these things and adjust them as you go along. Now, I haven't been keeping time. I don't know how long that first batch of gnocchi's been in there, but I'll have a look in a minute and see if any have risen. Then we can grab some out. I haven't tried to freeze these once they're cooked, but you know, tossed in the olive oil, I've kept them in the fridge for a couple of days. And they really don't start to clump together again. I'm just not sure if you froze them how whether they'd turn to mush or not. But you know, it really, other than boiling the potatoes for the mash, it really, as you can see, has not taken long. You know, so if you just want to put a pot of potatoes on some stage, even, you know, the day before, which is how I did these. I'm not actually sure, the packets of mashed potato that you can buy at Woolies, I'm not sure whether that's just potato or whether they've got other things in them that would affect Like I don't know if that's even got flour or something in it that would affect the quantities of flour and egg that you're going to add. But really, if you put your potatoes on, they can just cook whenever you're doing, you just can't do it on short notice. You can't come home and decide in half an hour you want to eat fresh gnocchi if you haven't done your potatoes in advance. Now, these gnocchi are going to feed quite a few people. I'm terrible at counting, but there's a few hundred there. And then if you do half gnocchi, half casserole, whatever else you've cooked, you could have this for quite a large number of people. Alright, I think we're going to get that first lot out. So grab a slotted spoon, grab the container that you're going to put it in, that you're going to toss with olive oil, and don't worry if there's, obviously drain your water a little bit, but you're not going to stand there for 10 minutes shaking them because the others are all cooking and, you want to get them out. But to mix with the olive oil, you don't want them sitting in a pool of water in there either, so just be aware of that. Okay, so that's all empty. So here's our little gnocchi. I'm going to grab some olive oil to toss it in. So just a drizzle there. Give them a bit of a toss around, and then they're ready for the next batch to stick on top of that. Gnocchi is also great with, like if you just get a pesto tossed through, or, you can grab some of those dips, those Wattle Valley dips that are oil and nut based, toss it through. Alright, so it's that simple to make the gnocchi. Hope you enjoy this, and I hope you actually go and make some and realise just how simple they are, but how delicious they are compared to the the packet ones that you buy. They're just so much softer when they're fresh. And I will see you another day on Cooking with Kate. Thanks for being here. One last little look at the little gnocchis. There he is. Cute little fella.